Want to live a purposeful life? Setting goals can help you in that. Hi, I'm Monika Hutnik, and I help leaders learn how to lead their international and virtual teams. Together with my team at ETTA Go Global, we make the change happen by means of training, coaching, facilitation, masterminds, action learning, and any other ways. This podcast, A Step Ahead, has been created for all who want to grow in such an international, remote environment, who want to grow as leaders, HR, change agents, and simply as humans. I'm inviting you here for discoveries and insights. All recordings and materials are available at www.astepahead.pro. When we think about setting goals, we usually relate to the business context. But aren't we in need of setting goals for our lives as well? Or is there a difference between setting a goal, setting an objective, maybe setting a direction? That's a very interesting topic to discuss, and I'm having a very great guest to be discussing this topic today, Bruno Morgante. By no coincidence, you are talking about goals because you know a lot about that in your life. Bruno.
Thank you for having me, Monica. It's such a pleasure. And yes, it is a topic that I frequently have in my keynotes when I speak in different places, conferences. It is one of the topics that I touch, and I'm sure we will go through it later. They have a beautiful story about it.
Absolutely. That's what we want. And Bruno, would you please introduce yourself to the listeners of this podcast? What brought you to the moment in life where you are now, how you are connected with goals and objectives?
Well, I used to introduce myself with I solve problems and deliver results, which is actually... it sounds funny, but it is actually something that I have done for all my career. And right now I am the founder and the CEO of Mantegora, a company that I founded at the end of last year, just a few months ago, and that I am currently using to fulfill my purpose of making the world a better place by empowering people and delivering impact. And everything that we do at the company, at Mantegora, it is powered by a desire to create meaningful change and by empowering individuals, elevating teams, and enabling organizations to turn visions into reality. We try to be there, somewhere in the middle between these beautiful ideas and the excellent execution. I spent a bit more than 20 years in corporate between essentially 4 different industries. It's railway, aerospace, IT, and HR services. Always improving processes, always building and leading successful teams, and driving projects, programs, and project management offices. Then, with the other hat, as a coach and mentor, over the years, I have coached and mentored more than 100 brilliant individuals on topics that are related to leadership, communication, human skills, personal growth, career development, and of course, project management. And then there is the last bit, which is me as a speaker and facilitator. You definitely can find me delivering keynotes, facilitating workshops. There is always a lot of storytelling in all the stuff that I do, and it's always about what I want to do when I am on stage or when I run my workshops. It always inspiring people and ignite something in them, ignite some emotions in them. This is what I'm trying to do every time.
And this is how I actually got to know you in the Project and Analysis Management Summit the other day. And I was also inspired by some of the stories that you shared. This is why I'm super extra happy to be able to discuss this topic in the conversation today. Well, the topic is actually about setting goals. You've had massive experience as a project manager working with large scale projects as well in very demanding industries. The question is, to what extent are we able to apply the project management skills, the attitude, mindset, and tools into what we are experiencing now, a very changing reality with very many question marks. Yes, we are talking about the VUCA or BANI world where everything is, changing so quickly, but we also change ourselves in life.
That's true. That's true. And this is something that it goes back to one foundational element in the topic about the objectives, which is something that I experience every time I am on stage and every time I deliver my keynote about the winning mindset, the one that I had at the Palm Summit. You might remember, Monica, that at a certain point, when I was starting to introduce the topic of my life objectives, I asked a question to the crowd. I asked to raise your hands if you have set up your life objectives. And as you can imagine, not too many people raise their hands. It's a very, very little minority of people. But then I always add the follow-up question, which is to raise the hands if you at least have set up your objectives for the current year. But every time I do it, even then, the number of people raising their hands is not high. It's really a minority of people, and that for me is and it's always the same. Everywhere I go, everywhere I speak about that, I find the same pattern, and this is what I believe it is the fundamental topic that you should approach, because it's a little bit scary and a little bit sad to me. Why don't we have the majority of people with objectives and willing to actually make them happen? And that is something that, of course, if you do have them and if you have a certain approach to objectives, which we can touch in a few minutes, you might use them in your professional life. Clearly, if you are in project management, it's something that you should have. And then you can apply them to real life. But even though that might be the situation, I repeat, you see the vast majority of people not having them. And that is something that it's a pity. It's a pity, in my opinion.
One of my education backgrounds is social science. I'm sociologist by education. And in sociology, we learn about setting goals in life. So in fact, when you look at the development of us as humans in our life cycles on a personal level, it seems that up to a certain age, we just repeat the schemes, the patterns that were set by our environment, maybe by our family, maybe parents, maybe some other influences from the direct environment. And we are more intuitive in our lives than actually conscious about what is that we want to achieve or what is important for us. So in other words, we are more attentive in listening to the world telling us what is important and trying to follow this than actually looking for setting our own questions and looking for our own answers. Why I'm saying this is that I believe that also what I know from the research, not that many people actually go into the next stage of development, which is like individualizing yourself from the family, trying to understand who I am, who I am in the society, who I am in my family. Maybe this comes around 40, and maybe the topic of setting goals becomes much more conscious and we become aware of what we want to do in life. But what you are claiming is that why not become aware of it a bit sooner, a bit earlier, so that we can actually lead the purposeful life.
Absolutely, and I agree with you. I believe a lot of the reasons that we might find about it is because we're not taught about doing it. It's like we grow up in schools, in families, and in most of them you don't hear this concept of, okay, set up your objectives. It's different. It's about, here are the things to do, just execute and make them happen. So we do them at school in most of the families, and then you enter in the world of work, and it is the same. It's like someone tells you, well, these are your tasks, just go and execute them. And you basically find yourself sort of stuck into this, execution mode. It's a cycle. And you not frequently stop or pause for a moment asking, why are you even doing the things that you are doing? What I'm trying to do with when I talk about those topics, it is to try to to light some fire, to start a spark into the people's minds, to let them realize how important it is to set up your own objectives and define your growth plan.
It's actually interesting that now that I'm listening to you, I'm realizing that some of the trainers who joined our team in our training company actually did ask these questions to themselves, and the fact that they are cooperating with us are the direct result of them making career shifts and so on. But let's be honest, Bruno, did you set your goals for yourself when you were much younger?
Yes, I was incredibly younger. And I didn't know anything about that.
Uh-huh.
Like no techniques, no studies, no nothing. It just came natural to me. And when I was a little bit, already just 18 years old, I decided to define the objectives for my life, which the following year, I have adjusted a couple of them. So let's say when I was 19, all the objectives for my whole life, not just for the next couple of years, they were all defined. And as I said, I didn't know how to do it. Like, nobody told me how to do it. It just came natural to me. With the passing of the time, looking at it many years later in retrospective, I realized that what I have done is similar, or it can be comparable to the approach of the OKR method. So the idea of having an objective, the long-term goal, what you want to reach, the what, and some key results, some short or mid-term results that you need to achieve in order to get to the objective. So again, without knowing it, I basically set them up like that. So I had an objective, I had a series of objectives, and for each and every one of them, I went one level below and identified what are the things that I need to achieve in order to get there. And that is something that, again, I wasn't able to do it in 20 minutes. It took me a week, a couple of weeks, and then again with the follow-up the following year. And yes, it was that's the way I set them up, and I kept them for myself. And I did my periodic retrospective, looking at them and seeing, okay, how am I progressing? Anything that I need to adjust? Am I progressing? But that's the way I did it. Yes.
And you even became a project manager afterwards to make it even more probable
a
that
few
you
years
will reach
later.
your goal. Yes, yes.
Yeah, a few years later, I became a project manager, and again, it was not designed. It happened, and but it was. I'm so happy that it happened.
So how did it impact your life, the fact that you did have those goals as an older teenager or young adult? Yes, in fact.
completely, like, it impacted my life 100%. I would never be the person that I am right now, and in the situation in which I am right now, in the both personal and professional situation I am right now, without having defined those objectives. There are two things, and one maybe we will keep it for a moment, which is when I achieve them, because I have already achieved them, and you know the story. You have been there in attending my keynote. But before getting to the achievement, the having set up those objectives, it didn't mean that everything I was doing every day, every moment of my life, it was related to the objectives. Of course, no. Of course, there are things that you do around that might be not related, but there is always this guidance, this idea that I knew where I wanted to go. I knew what I wanted to have in life. And everything that I was working on, everything that I was building, it had to be aligned to that objective. Did it make me more efficient? Maybe. For sure, it made me more focused on what I wanted to do in life. That's for sure. Yes.
More focused. I actually appreciate this focus. Now we are attempting to discover the secret key to the deep work, to the lack of focus, which is actually a curse of the younger generation and ourselves now, with this multitude of impulses coming from everywhere. So the focus actually might be a very useful thing in life.
Absolutely. I mean, to me, it's always about, if you are doing something, ask yourself, why are you doing it? What's the reason that brought you to do that thing? And if you don't have an answer, then you should try to find it. And then if you realize that the answer is, meaningless, well, then maybe it's better if you use your time in a different way. And that is where the focus definitely takes place, plus the efficiency as well. Because again, you might realize, okay, I'm doing this stuff, and what for? Why am I doing it? It's just because I'm, just doing it. Okay, it can be. Like, it's absolutely fine to have those type of moments, but I don't think you should spend your whole life just doing things for the sake of doing things. I think that there should be a higher purpose in life. Yes.
And you mentioned, Bruno, that you actually met your goals. What did it mean for you?
Yeah, it was. I remember perfectly that evening when I crossed on my list, on my objective list, the last one completed. I marked it completed, and I was for that moment, in that moment, and for the next couple of weeks, I was probably the happiest person on the planet. It was fantastic.
Congratulations!
Thank you. That feeling of fulfillment, of achievement. It was beautiful until it wasn't, because then what I ended up being, it was a terrible moment. I describe it as the worst 9 months of my life, because just after reaching my life objectives, I was 35, by the way, when I achieved them, all of them. I realized that was not the point, that achieving the objective was not the point. But it brought me into a now what moment, in which I was like without guidance, lost, and I started challenging everything that I have done, the choices that I made in my life, the situation in which I was. And it was tough. It was really bad. It was a moment very difficult, in which I had to think about many things, talk with people, get help. And I call it, it really felt like I was in a deep hole. But slowly, gradually, I was able to go out of it. And then, of course, to define what to do, what I wanted to achieve for the rest of my life. What I always share to people when I talk about this topic, and of course it is one of the key takeaways that I share into that keynote, it is the apparently simple but not so much considered concept that it's not important really what you in the moment in which you achieve your goals, but it is the journey that is the important point. Is the person that set up the goals initially, it's always going to be a very different person when they achieve them, and that journey, that transformation is actually what it the added value that you gain is the person that you become while you walk towards your goals. That is actually what you need to aim for, and it's powerful. And again, it's a simple concept. It's not rocket science, but a lot of people don't know it, or they are not aware, and I see the impact that it has when you support people to reflect on that specific element.
I understood that even after having achieved the previous old goals, after this huge internal transformation, you still set new goals for yourself, but I believe that they are set in a different way. What's the difference? What's the major difference of the mature approach to setting life goals?
I confirm, yes, they are different. They are definitely objectives of a much more mature person. If you look at them right now, that's clear. There is a chunk, a nice amount of years and experience in the middle, and life, of course, happening. I believe that the biggest difference between the objectives that I had early in my life, that I gave to myself early in my life, versus what I gave after, it is the topic related to the purpose and the inspirational aspects of the objectives. The first one, they were like the objectives that a young adult could give to themselves, or it's like, okay, I want to achieve that. I want to be able to do this and this. While now they are different. Now they are about, okay, there is a meaning behind them, and there is a higher purpose. There is also a different way in which they are set up. They are related to the vision that I have for my life, which, it's the vision of the world that we will never achieve, but we will die trying. There is something bigger that is related to them, and I'm proud of this evolution. It's a beautiful thing. I'm so happy that I was able, for whatever reason, many years ago when I was 18, to come with the ideas of these are the objectives that I want to achieve. These are the things that I want to achieve in life. And even if they were wrong, because of course right now I see that they were not the real life objectives, they helped me in the following 15 roughly years to actually go through life in a very structured way, which I am particularly proud of. Yes.
And the reason why I started this conversation with you was also trying to understand how good goals, mature goals, I don't know, maybe well-defined or well-set goals can be helpful to us when we personally or business-wise experience change, when the environment is very turbulent. What's your perspective on this?
I think they are incredibly important, because the goal is really something that is helping you to look ahead. Is like giving you direction. They should give you direction in your professional life, but also in your personal life. And that's something that I discuss a lot with my coachee during our coaching sessions. It's about it really helps you to define where do you want to go, in which direction you want to go. Now, imagine that you are in the middle of a green field And around you, you have, you know, at 360 degrees, you have all the views. You have the mountains on one side, then you can see a woods over there, some water over on the other side. I'm not telling you that you absolutely need to identify what is the exact spot where you want to go, but at least you need to understand the direction. And let's say that you decide to move towards the mountains and you go there in that direction and you start walking, which is the most important thing to do. It's start moving, because only moving you realize if actually this is the right direction for you or not. Now, while you move, something happens, you know, life happens. So the famous, okay, we have set up a goal, and now what? And something happens. So the something can be an external factor, or can be also an internal factor. You might realize that actually this is not what you thought it was. Maybe it looked like a good path to go to the mountain, but actually it's not. Or maybe, I don't know, there is a group of wild animals while you walk there, and you might say, well, maybe it's better if you take a detour. And that's exactly how objectives, having defined objectives, helps you in life. It's because life happens, but at least you know in which direction you want to move. And that is very, very relatable to project management, because when you are managing even just a task, not the whole project, but even if it's just a task, if you know what you need to achieve, every time that something is going to go wrong, you will find a way to make it work, which might be something out of your personal reach. You might need the help. You might need to escalate, go and speak with a colleague, involve the sponsor. But you need to make it happen anyway. So you find a way, instead of saying, oh, well, I tried, it didn't work, let's try something else, which is the opposite, and which is what actually potentially you could risk of just being stuck, you know, turning around, moving around, and not going anywhere.
So what I'm hearing from you is actually about setting long-term objectives, setting direction, talking about what's the final end that we are aspiring to. And as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about the personal level, about the personal evolution, personal growth. I'm thinking also about cooperation in business. In some of the projects that we lead or that we support for our clients, we give a direction on the cross-cultural cooperation. There will be cultures who focus on just, getting the tasks done, like following a certain process, but there will be many more cultures in the world actually where you first need to talk about the big picture of the project, of the common idea, so that they can find the way that will take us there in the end. It's in a turbulent environment, sometimes it's very difficult to plan a precise path. And this is what makes me think also about adaptive mindset.
I think, Monica, what you're doing here is opening one of the Pandora's boxes in project management, because like you touched you put so many topics on the table which I would love to touch. Let me start with this one first. Having the mindset of getting things done, it's anyway necessary, especially when we talk about project management. A lot of young project managers, they ask me, okay, Bruno, but if I need to do one thing in project, what is it? And the answer is, the number one thing is you need to make them happen. You need to get things done.
This way or another, yes?
This way or another. That's the first thing. Like, without it, everything else is beautiful, but that means nothing. So that's important to put it there for a moment. But then the biggest risk that you have in projects and in life as well, when you do only focus on the things that you have to deliver, the things that you have to do, the famous things that needs to get done. If you only focus on that one, you are going to become, potentially, if you are very good at that, you are going to become a delivery machine. You keep on delivering. But then is that actually what potentially is going to provide any value for the organization or for your team or for yourself in life? And that is when in project management, we love to introduce the different levels between output, outcome, and benefits. It's like, and again, we could talk for hours on the topic, but there is always, in simple words, look always at why are you doing what you're doing. So we go back to that, and in project management, if you start a project or if you are assigned to a project, the first thing that you should try to understand is, what are we trying to achieve? Like, what do we want to achieve with this project? And achieve in project is not what is the deliverable, the implementation of the new tool.
Yes.
Or the replacement of the old tool with the new one. That's the deliverable. But what do we want to achieve with this new tool? What is
it's
it?
About
is
the
it
value
potentially
that we create?
Exactly. Is it, I don't know, is it ensure that our colleagues work better, that they save time, that we sell more, that we save cost, whatever it is, but try to understand it, because that is what you have to aim for. And so here is back to the objectives. You can see the similarities there. It's like, you need to have something bigger, and you need to know what it is. And then, of course, you need to get there step by step. That's why I mentioned a few minutes ago, and I like it, the approach of the OKR methods. So the idea of having this objective, the what that you want to achieve far over there, and how do you get there? It is with these key results that you need to achieve in order to reach the objectives. So it's a very good approach to structure your objectives.
I am currently a part of a project where the project manager actually is much more task focused, and I tend to be more value focused, and I can see how many points of tensions it creates. Sometimes it's a challenge for me to translate the language of a value into modifying the tasks, because once the tasks have been set, they want to be completed. That's what she's thinking. So we are in a, let's say, constructive dialogue about that. And I'm also thinking, maybe that's a difference between smart and wise. We talk about a smart way of setting goals with smart criteria for setting goals. We want to be smart people, but smart is about delivering, isn't it? While wise is about the value.
Yes, it's a nice picture that you have painted. The conversation between achieving things and looking at the value, it has always been there, and it's always going to be there. The difficult bit, and I think you could feel it in your voice. You said something like, it's difficult to translate the value into actions, and that is always a difficult thing to do. When you look at the company from upside down, they have the vision they should have, then they have a mission, then they have a strategy, which usually, unfortunately, is the fluffy gray area that should be crystal clear to people. It should say to people what you do, your day-to-day task. How is that going to help us achieving, getting to our vision, getting there? And that, unfortunately, very frequently it's not happening. So then, same is here. It's like, if you only focus on the task, the achievement of the task, you risk of losing sight of what is actually important. And the result in the end, and you know me, I have managed hundreds of projects, either myself directly or within my PMOs. When I was leading PMOs, we had hundreds of projects every year. So many of those projects, they were delivered, maybe on target, on time, and on cost. But then at the end, what for? Were actually the thing that was delivered, was it actually impacting the organization? Was it being adopted by the people? Was it significantly doing anything to the people around us? And in too many projects, unfortunately, the answer is no. You deliver something, and then what? So that's why it's much better to ask those questions, as you said, in this, with this project manager that you are working with at the beginning or early in the process, because then you might realize that there are things that actually don't have to be done. And maybe there are other things that actually we should do, and it's better to focus on them.
It really helps to prioritize, yes, especially when the environment is shifting, when the change is coming. So if I was thinking about summarizing what I heard from you, is that maybe in the first phase of life, while you were 18, you set smart goals. Maybe they were ambitious, yes, they were maybe time-bound, realistic, and so on. But now, once you achieve that, you got a huge insight, and now you've set the wise goals about value, the goals about purpose. That's the lesson that I'm taking from you, Bruno. And I'm also thinking about this difference, yes, between being smart and being wise. Maybe that's something that we achieve, that we just get mature to in life, but maybe that's also something that we can get inspired by, like just we are inspired by you and your story, your sharing about your insights. If you were to give advice to people who are listening to us, what might be the right way or the advice how to set relevant, valuable goals for ourselves?
My simple and honest piece of advice is at least to start. They don't have to be the most inspirational, significant, meaningful, full of purpose objectives, but at least set objectives for you. And then identify what are the steps that you need to perform to get to those objectives. And then work towards them, walk towards them, do the needful to get to a point in which you say, okay, objective is achieved. That will start a process within yourself that will help you to get used to the fact that you are not just working because someone from the top told you to work, but you work in a meaningful way. You're saying, okay, I gave this objective to myself and I want to do that in life. This is going to trigger so many beautiful things within yourself. You are entering into the topic of a growth mindset. We are entering into the topic of what I call a winning mindset, which growth mindset is a part of it. There is so much more that you're going to achieve. That is one of the first steps that will help you to start this transformational journey. It might be a simple thing. So again, the objective, don't aim to save the world or to change your company. That might be impossible, but aim something that is definitely achievable, and it needs to be giving you enough challenge. It needs to be aggressive, let's say, realistic, but aggressive, and start with that. Like it anyway, it's better than nothing. It's even just a simple objective. It's better than not having any.
Bruno, thank you so much. Let's just make the first step. Yes, let's just make the first step. Thank you so much, Bruno, for being my guest today.
Thank you for having me, Monica. It has been such a pleasure, a nice conversation. I really loved it. Thank you.
Key messages which I was aiming at in this conversation are: 1. Setting goals does make sense for a purposeful life, absolutely. 2. Having these goals at sight will help you go through turbulent times because they will be like your lighthouse, like your compass. And then finally, 3. For a purposeful life, value prevails over delivery. I'm so glad that Bruno has shared his story along so many hints for, let's put it, doing it right. So if you like to have a look at notes and links, you will find them on the episode landing page, which is www.astepahead.pro/021, which is the 21st episode of this podcast. Bruno was really speaking in a way that was keeping us all involved. This is really a beautiful skill of storytelling. If you want to learn this skill, I have an episode to recommend to you. Winning Hearts with Storytelling is the title of this particular episode. That's episode 16, and many hints and tricks from Yingdan Liu, who is specializing in this topic. A very simple structure to follow. I think you will like it. And by the way, I also believe that storytelling and talking about goals, about purpose in the right way is a huge skill of any leader. Well, I don't know that, but I'm imagining that maybe some of your goals or aspirations relate to working internationally or globally. And because of this, let me recommend 2 other episodes to you, which is Managing Stakeholders in Asia, and an amazing episode with Beata Malinowska, number 17. And if we don't go so far, but stay in the Central Eastern Europe, then you might sometimes wonder how to make CEE audience speak in your presentation, in your meeting, in your workshop. Episode 19, and a conversation with Małgorzata Miętkiewicz. Some of you might have been drawn to this particular episode because you might be having project manager background. So let me recommend an episode directly related to managing projects in Mexico, episode number 7 with Alessia Serena, talking about her experience in the automotive sector. Okay, so if you've enjoyed and would like to say thank you, yes, please do leave a recommendation on any channel that you are using for listening to this podcast. Thank you so much from my side as well. Staying in touch, and goodbye.